and in this video I'm going to go over the very aggressive opening by white, the Scotch Gambit. Now this Gambit does come with risk. However, if black doesn't know how to play 100% accurately, it can be very dangerous for black and we can have a very good game as white. Should both sides play properly, then we should have a fairly equal game. I'm going to show you a couple of lines that previous people have recommended to play in the Scotch Gambit, and I'm going to not recommend, because if again black knows how to play it, they're going to have a very good advantage, and I'm going to show you these in the game. So it starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6 by black, and d4. And black here usually takes, he takes d4, and we'll play bishop to c4, not taking with the knight immediately, because this would be the Scotch game. We want to play the Scotch Gambit, which is bishop to c4. There's a few lines here I'm going to go over. The first one I'm going to go over is bishop to c5. Immediately we're going to play c3, asking black what he wants to do, and if black decides to stop defending this weak d4 pawn and ask for the exchange, we're going to play the immediate bishop takes on f7 check. It's worth noting here, it's recommended black just takes back on f7. If he doesn't, we're just going to pull the bishop back. He's lost his castling rights, and white can just more easily develop than if he didn't take the bishop and get a better advantage. So black takes on f7. We'll play queen to d5 check, and after the king moves out of the way, we will pick up the bishop on c5, getting the material back, and if black decides to continue and take on b2, we'll retake with the bishop, and that bishop's nicely developed and it's got a very strong diagonal later on in the game. That is going to be very dangerous for black and very good for us as white. So if black decides to play c2, we'll just retake with the queen immediately. You can just play the knight out if you really want to, but I just don't see why you'd possibly allow black any sort of counter play later down the line. Just take the queen now. It's recommended also. It's again, we're going to have a great game. This king's not castling, it's moved, and we'll be fine. Just quickly, what I want to show, if black plays to f8, if black plays to f8, we'll take the bishop, and that comes with check, so we've now got an extra move. It's even better for us. If black, however, plays to f6, we'll play bishop to g5 check, and after the forced move king to g6, we'll play queen to f5 check, forced move again, king to h5, g4 checkmate. And if black decides to throw in the towel already and play king to g6, we'll play the immediate queen to f5. Well done, that's mating 1. So what if black decides to not take on c3 and instead play knight to f6? This is what I recommend as black. But this is how I want you to respond with white. I want you to play e5. Now, it's recommended here that black plays to e4, but you may see the beginners, say 1100 and below, play the knight back to g8, which is fine for us. That knight's going to struggle to get back in the game later on, and we will be absolutely fine as white. It's a very good game ahead of us. So after the recommended move, knight to e4, we'll play the bishop to d5, pressuring this knight and this knight, keeping pressure on this f7 pawn. As a human, we'll probably see f5 by black. We just want to castle, preparing rook to e1 later on in the game. Do not take en passant here, because, if black did take with the queen, that'd be great for us. But what you'll probably see here is knight takes on f6. Now this knight's come back to his starting square. He's got a semi-open f-file, and he's pressuring this bishop also. We don't want to take here. It's a very strong bishop. It was stronger on d5, but we're going to have to accept that we've got to move him back. Probably b3, and the game goes on with now a slight advantage to black. So instead of taking en passant, just castle. If black knows his lines off by heart here, or he's just a engine, you'll probably see knight takes on f2, and after king takes on f2, if black plays the d takes c3, Don't panic here. Don't go and do something silly like bishop blocks. The pawn's going to come and take here afterwards, and I'm going to have a very awful game. Just play the calm king to f1. We've got a slight advantage as white. We've got a knight for 3 pawns. So just play solid. Don't play anything crazy. We should get the advantage back. Well, we have got the advantage, but let the advantage be shown by just playing pretty natural, normal, non-crazy moves, and white will be fine in this position. Okay, so what if we see instead d5? We'll just retake the bishop. He's gave us his pawn back, and we've got a nice defender on e4. We've got pressure on the knight on c6, and we've got pressure still on the f7 pawn. Now this isn't bad for black. It is known for black to give the pawn back immediately. He gets this bishop into the game more freely. So just don't panic here. This is absolutely fine. But what if instead of well, we've gone over this one. What if we see bishop to b4 check? Well, we'll play again c3. It's a bit of a running theme in the Scotch Gambit, c3. After black takes, we'll just castle here. Don't do anything else. Just castle. Keep it simple, and we'll be fine. After black pays a move like knight to e7 or even f6 here, we'll just take on c3. After the bishop moves to c5, a5, or the Stockfish recommendation is d6. If you see this, black's got a trapped white square bishop here. He's going to have a hard time getting this into the game. In this sort of instance, I would recommend keeping a hold of this e5 pawn. This doesn't quite work because he's got 2 attackers on the pawn, and this would be better for black in my opinion. The c4 pawn I would definitely start trying to add defenders to, should later in the game this happens. You've got 2 very powerful bishops now eyeing down on our king. That would probably be a plan for black. So just keep hold of this pawn best you can. I wouldn't recommend playing e5 here. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. And that's pretty much that line. Sometimes you'll see black come all the way back to f8. This does stop black from castling. Again, we're in a pretty comfortable position as white. Just, again, natural moves and you'll be fine. So what if instead we see knight to f6? Now this is the part where I've seen previous people recommending the Scotch Gambit to play knight to g5, adding pressure to this f7 pawn. Black here, all black has to do is play d5 and have to retake with the e pawn. All black's got to do is play queen to e7 check. And the only move really for us if we want to stay equalised in the position is king to f1. Again, as you can see here, black knew what was coming. He took advantage of our gambit and now we are worse off. So what I would recommend doing here, instead of knight to g5, is just castles, preparing rook to e1. Again, another running theme that we're going to see in the Scotch Gambit. There's nothing really stopping you here from immediately taking on d4 with the knight. Just saying, okay, fair dues. We'll have an equal position. I've got a centralised queen. Black doesn't necessarily have to take back on d5. You can play any other move, such as this, and we saw it now back in a Scotch game. Sorry, after knight to f6 instead of g5. Like I said, I do recommend castling. Now, this is the part that I really want you to take notice on. You may think if after castling you're giving up a second pawn on e4, but it's not quite the case. This is a line, if you really want to play the Scotch Gambit without taking back on d4, you'll get a good advantage as white. A tricky position for black to play. Just calmly let him take it. Play rook to e1. Now black here is probably going to defend the knight and attack the bishop at the same time on e4, thinking that if the bishop takes on d5, the queen's just going to retake on d5 and everything's fine. But it's fine to take on d5 after queen retakes on d5 and black thinks it, you know, you've just gave him a bishop for nothing. We're going to play knight to c3, attacking this queen. Now the pawn can't take on c3 because we will win the queen for free. Well, it's going to cost a bishop and a knight, but still the queen's better than that. So recommended move for black is just play the queen back to d7, and now we'll win our material back with knight taking on e4. And then black's just going to carry on developing and try and castle kingside. So yes, if we see knight taking on e4, that is fine. Don't worry. Pin that knight to the king. After d5, take with the bishop, and after queen takes, knight to c3. Remember, the knight can't take on c3 because he's pinned to the king. The pawn can't take because the pawn's pinned to the queen. We will just take the queen for free. And this is fine for white. Absolutely fine. So if you want to play the Scotch Gambit and keep a equal position without giving too much away, do not play in this position, as other people have recommended in the past. Knight to g5, adding to the attack of this f7 pawn. Now the last line I want to go over really quickly is knight to h6, defending this f7 pawn. Now this is great for white, but again what we don't want to do is play knight to g5, because again we give the advantage back to black. Again, what this is, you'll probably see this at the beginner level or early intermediate level. What it means is that black is panicking here. They've been done by the Scotch Gambit before, and they just want to play the moves to protect the f7 pawn so they don't get in any complications and throw the game away completely early on. So again, don't play the knight to g5. Again, we're just going to castle here. And after black plays a couple of moves, we can retake the d4 pawn if we want. We can play a number of different moves, but the idea here is if as soon as black plays this bishop out and then castles later on, we can always just pick the knight up. In fact, we can even pick the knight up immediately. Okay, let's play this, and then we can pick the knight up now. This is fine. Black's now no longer got a safe king side, so he's probably going to want to castle queen side, so you can immediately start attacking the queen side in this position. So if both sides play properly, it's going to be equalised. If black's been done by the Scotch Gambit before and plays over cautiously, he's going to give you an open G file. Do be careful of the open G file because of this rook. It is a double-edged sword, definitely, which is why I probably wouldn't recommend taking straight away, but it is fine to do so. You've just got to be very careful. I would probably wait to see if black castles first kingside, and then only then take the knight on h6, giving the open g file the king on the other side for you to attack freely. So I hope this video has been instructive. I hope it's not been boring this early on making videos. Any feedback, good or bad, is greatly appreciated. Any likes or new subscribers is again greatly appreciated. Keep everything, anything. I'll take it on the chin. Take it into the next video. If should it be bad feedback, I'll work on it definitely. I won't take it to heart. I'm not a snowflake. So again, anything, absolutely anything. Likes, dislikes. Tell me why. Subs and likes, obviously. I'm gonna love them, but still. Before I start blabbering on, I'm going to end it there and say a great big thank you again. I'll hopefully see you in the next one.